Hello and welcome to HTEC Today. My name is Sava Marinkovich, and we're going to be covering AI and the software development lifecycle, or SDLC as it's commonly referred to. And we're going to dive into whether is there a real transformation happening or is there turmoil right now and people trying to figure out what's going on with AI when we're thinking about making products and software and seeing how to apply. There's been many statistics saying that 80% of the effort gets accelerated, but it's taking the same amount of time in the end for that last 20% to work. So today we're going to address, is AI accelerating value or is it just accelerating kind of disorder? And with us today is Tim Sears, HTEC's Chief AI Officer. Tim, thank you for joining today. I wanted to start off with basically saying, how is AI fundamentally reshaping SDLC? What's the good in it? What's happening that is causing all this excitement about using AI in SDLC?
Well, essentially, people started using AI tools to help write code a couple of years ago, maybe some early adopters a little bit sooner than that. But, and in that time, tools have improved really dramatically. And so people were excited about the potential then, but, saw some drawbacks and, certain folks adopted kind of on an individual basis mostly. Now we're at the point where we can see entire teams using it and using it together, which is really, I think we're going to get into that a little bit. And the potential is there, and actually the tools continue to improve. So, it's a very rosy future for using AI as part of an SDLC. And it's causing a lot of stir and a lot of change management issues because the way we think about developing software is changing dramatically and will continue to change dramatically. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later.
How is that changing? Like, what, from an executive's perspective and from the people who are kind of leading these projects in SDLC, why is it changing now? I mean, people are saying it's accelerating and the tools are getting better and better, but does this mean they're 10xing? They're going to do stuff faster? Are they going to do things better? Like, why is there a stir around it?
Well, it's clearly a technological advance that will make things better. But and so we can assume that we're going to get benefits from it almost no matter how you deploy it. But that's not really the game in business. The game in business is to, be on the frontier of using things in the best possible way. And when we're doing that, we're going to find that the trade-offs that we used to see in how we structured software development are a little bit different now because AI changes the emphasis dramatically.
In which way? Can you give an example?
Sure. I think what's happening now is, what used to happen in olden days when I began my career was we had to be super careful in specifying what was needed so that the software engineer was working on the right thing and they didn't have to rewrite it 5 times. AI can write things 5 times, 10 times. It doesn't really matter. You can just keep hitting enter, so to speak, and you can re-execute all you want. So that's a very significant change. The real challenge was in olden days, like last couple of years ago, was to make sure that we had clarity in terms of requirements documents and things like that before you ever got the engineers involved, threw it over the wall to an engineering team and then built the product. Now all that can kind of happen at once, and but the real emphasis now on getting clarity around the requirements, but you can do that in a much more iterative way, which opens up a lot of possibilities in how teams can and should work together.
So rewrites are becoming cheaper, actually. So people can kind of modify these things. But is there, does that change what's important in the SDLC?
I think it changes how you get to what's important. I think now we have the ability to iterate. Software's always been a thing that we could iterate, and we've taken advantage of that with things like Agile, where you just build something and then iterate to success. You can essentially double down, triple down on that philosophy. You don't necessarily need all the specs going in, but you do need a team of experts who can provide their bits and pieces of the clarity that's needed. Everybody from designers at one end of the project and maybe even business leaders, specifying certain pieces that can actually feed the process. And engineers and, security experts and network experts and database experts, those folks are still needed. The AI can do a lot more, and the role of the people is more providing the input and the clarity and the vision, and also validating what comes out to the extent that the systems can't be validated by themselves.
But so it sounds like there's a lot of value generated with using these AI tools properly. But what's the struggle? Why is there still problems? Why isn't everyone just doing it?
Well, I think it's a great question. It's been a bit of a topic of conversation for a couple of years now. One is that there's several factors going on. One is that our software engineers are experts. They've trained their craft, and craftsmen believe in craft. And there's some innate resistance, human nature being what it is. There has been some innate resistance. At the same time, there's been early adopters. A lot of the early adopters are really focused on making their own product, having more fun on the job, being more productive by themselves, not necessarily thinking about things in a team point of view. I know one super hot startup, I won't say the name, but tons of their engineers have adopted AI to help write code. And they all sit there in their own little silo using AI to write code. And it's certainly helpful and making them productive. But it isn't necessarily used on a group basis. And I think that, in the enterprise where everything is teamwork and there's always boundaries and organizations that need to be bridged, cross-functional, getting the cross-functional aspects of life in big companies to work means that we need an SDLC that works kind of, I don't want to say at scale, but cross-functionally enough so that all of the aspects of the project can be brought to bear, and the SDLC can get all of the clarity that's needed. That's why you see a lot of things that are proof of concept, and people that used to be technical and are semi-technical now can actually write nice POCs and make really effective demos, but they still have a lot of problems getting things into production because the SDLC did not include enough people.
So is it something that the organizations have to rethink when they're approaching projects now with SDLCs? Because anyone can generate code or specs now quickly. They can doesn't, but if everyone's doing it, that's not a real advantage strategically. So what changes? What becomes the new bottleneck here? What becomes the missing link for enterprises, or missing links? Like, what are some of the considerations now when they're thinking about this? Because there's a lot of money poured into AI. Every enterprise is pouring money. You use Cloud Code, use these coding LLMs and everything. So what becomes the advantage in those?
Well, let me say something to business leaders that are leading teams that need to use an SDLC to be productive. And this could sound philosophical and maybe a little bit theoretical, but it's meant in the most practical way possible, which is the emphasis of all of the work now needs to shift from protecting valuable resources to make sure they're writing the right code and checking it in at the right pace, to making sure your team is able to understand the business problem, state it clearly, and always in the form of a hypothesis that can be revised so you can, as you learn more, at whatever stage of the project, you can improve. And so it's really the search for clarity and vision, and making that expressed in a way that the AI can take advantage of it and actually produce what you want. The power is there, but it may not be immediately visible. I think this situation will actually improve over time. That will get easier. But the challenge on getting super high productivity in producing enterprise-grade software is making it an SDLC that has all of the right people providing the right input, not necessarily at a low level of technical detail as used to be needed. So the search for clarity is paramount here. Clarity and vision. The business folks need to be even closer to technical development than they ever were.
Your comment about hypothesis approach and hypothesis testing sounds very entrepreneurial. Is the mindset needed to be different now with some of these tools? And how does that compare with the traditional kind of rigor that engineering organizations are used to and need to, especially in kind of critical or regulated industries?
Rigor is important, and something we value. It's a technical expertise. All that sort of thing is still important, but it needs to be combined with iteration. So when I say hypothesis, that's something that you hold temporarily. You learn something, you change. the beauty of software, and especially over the past few decades, we've learned to do software better. The main way we've learned to do things better is by iterating the code. Now we're going to be iterating our vision and iterating the clarity to have it be even more effective. Think about it this way. You talk about sort of enterprise software. Whatever's going on in the SaaS world is fine, but we're still going to be using enterprise software. Somebody's going to be writing it. Somebody's going to be using it. We kind of settle now. We settle for, something that's 60, 70% of what we need, and we adjust our business processes to maybe make use of a vendor product. That's fine. I think we're in a world now where we can, the highly competitive companies will expect all of their software to be perfect. That sounds super strong, but now, and it is super strong in the old economics where, enterprise software engineers were few and far between, or, much more precious resource. Now what we need, and now we can essentially keep iterating until the software does exactly what we need. And that level of perfectionism, I think, will define competitive companies in the future.
So so there's speed in execution, and there's rigor of what you're saying in terms of getting these out, and that iteration sits between those two kind of points of rigor and speed. So is the SDLC, what's different in that perspective in the AI SDLC? Are there checkpoints? Is it gating? Where's the human element of this, and what are organizations doing right and wrong?
Well, it's an interesting question, Sava, because I think that there may be a lack of consensus in the marketplace right now. We have our own views inside of HTEC. Obviously, they're the best, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be holding them. But and we also see other people with different points of view. There may be elements to everybody's points of view that are part of the ultimate solution here. But what I'm saying is really that we don't expect the AI to do everything. We expect a role for humans. We all have to own the output of the AI, and our ability to validate and check and own essentially what comes out of AI is still paramount. Otherwise, we really shouldn't be deploying software we really don't know what it does, and it hasn't been vetted. We shouldn't be deploying that type of product. But what we're looking at is a world where the team is providing the clarity and vision, and the AI is the arms and legs cranking out the code.
That's great. And then that enables kind of the more attention to the clarity and the vision on the business cases.
Yeah, and I keep emphasizing that because I think as powerful as the tools are, there's a human gating process that is needed. We believe that gating process needs to be teamwork oriented, like most great businesses still operate as great teams. And so how do we get teams to own what the AI is producing and still get the AI to produce a lot, right? And so that is that's the goal here. I've seen SDLC folks proposing SDLCs where the bots will just keep iterating and iterating, and maybe they'll get there. But I think they'll only get there to the extent the input was clear enough. And so you could burn a lot of tokens, or you could end up just failing because the bots aren't quite smart enough.